Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, human rights violations in North Korea. So, how many of you know that there's a Declaration of Human Rights? Anyone know that? Does anyone know how many articles there are? No one? No one knows?
Not that much.
There are 30 articles in the Declaration of Human Rights. And can anyone guess how many articles North Korea violates?
All of them.
Correct. But today I'm only discussing Articles 2, 5, and 13 of the Declaration. So Article 2 says that everyone is entitled to all the rights and freedoms set forth in this Declaration. In this Declaration, without distinction of any kind such as race, color, religion, sex, or political opinion, meaning that no matter who you are or where you're from, you should always have these rights. So, speaking out or expressing your opinions in North Korea is not really welcome. Speaking out against political matter is punishable by public execution or concentration camps. And concentration camps are where they get torture, manual labor, stuff like that. So, when Kim Jong-il died, a graduate student named Lisa Sargent wrote about how people were forced to mourn his death. And if you didn't, they were thrown into political camps because it was seen as treasonous because you didn't mourn your great leader. So, Article 5 says that no one shall be subject to torture or inhuman or degrading treatment or punishment. So does anyone have to worry about what they're going to eat next? Anyone? No? Well, according to Christina Silva, an author from Newsweek, out of 25 million people that live in North Korea, 18 million go starving. That's over 72% of their population. Missouri has 6 million people for its population. That's saying 3 Missouris basically go hungry. So the citizens of North Korea get rations of 300 grams of food a day, and that's less than a pound of food. So Christina Silva also writes that instead of spending money on its people, they usually just spend money on like warheads and basically furthering their military, even though the military is not the greatest. So how many people travel home for Christmas? And what? All right, Nick, I'm gonna pick on you. What if I said you couldn't go home?
I would ask why.
I say because I told you not to.
I would say that's not fair.
And I would probably public execution for assassinating.
It's definitely not fair.
So Article 13 says that everyone has the right of freedom of movement and residence within the borders of each state, and everyone has the right to leave any country, including his own, and to also return to his country. So if you wanted to visit your family, it would be very hard because think of a border between here in Kansas City and here in St. Louis. You have to go through each of those borders, and you have to have either a work permit or permission from the regime. According to Lanko, Daniel, Kim, Kirkpatrick, and Marcus, all authors of the Liberty and North Korea website, it is illegal to leave the country without the regime's permission. So there is a video I want to show of a person named Hyoso Lee who escaped North Korea, and this is just to show you how and why she escaped.
When I was young, I thought my country was the best on the planet. And I grew up singing a song called Nothing to Envy. And I was very proud. In school, we spent a lot of time studying the history of Kim Il-sung, but we never learned much about the outside world. Except that America, South Korea, Japan are the enemies. Although I often wondered about the outside world, I thought I would spend the entire my life in North Korea until everything suddenly changed. When I was 7 years old, I saw my first public execution, but I thought my life in North Korea was normal. My family was not poor, and myself had never experienced hunger. But one day in 1995, my mom brought home a letter from a Caucasus sister. It read, "When you read this, our 5 family members will not exist in this world because we haven't eaten for the past week. We are lying on the floor together and our bodies are so weak. We are waiting to die." I was so shocked. This was the first time I heard that people in my country were suffering. Soon after, when I was walking past the train station, I saw something terrible that still can't erase from my memory. A lifeless woman was lying on the ground while an emaciated child in her arms just stared helplessly at his mother's face. But nobody helped them because they were so focused on taking care of themselves and their families. A huge famine hit North Korea in the mid-1990s. Ultimately, more than 1 million North Koreans died during the famine, and many only survived by eating grass, bugs, and tree bark. Heart outages also become more and more frequent, so everything around me was completely dark at night, except for the sea of lights in China. Just
So I played this video just to show how difficult it was for people who went through the famine, who didn't have food or like electricity, and how terrible the conditions they were living in. But she goes on and talks about how she would see people's bodies in the Han River trying to pose failed attempts to escape. And escaping to like China, it's common, but most people fail, and because of this, most people's families get split up. And I picked these 3 rights, the Article 15, Articles 2, 5, and 13, because it's kind of important in our daily lives, traveling, eating, and all this stuff. Having an opinion